if you're a reader of the publication and you want to find out about, we have some exciting news. I want to share that with everybody. By the way, Ann Smith, I'm going to help you out here. So this is going to require me to be very inappropriate to my language. A titwaffle is a waffle that you have rubbed all over your female private parts and shoved in and out and made soggy and then made somebody eat it. There. Your life is a little less than it was before you asked me that question. I should point out. Right. Elaine's already here. Shit's already going to get fucking real now. Elaine's here. Don't anybody talk about Elaine now. All twat jokes and all kink jokes are now off the table. Yeah. I'm not drinking yet. Diet Coke. But I will be self-medicating later this evening, I can assure you. Especially after the day that I've had today. Hey, now, Craig, don't say that about Elaine. Because I wanted to. You can't say that about Elaine because I should. I should be able to get away with that. Small Mouse joined. I like Elaine too. I like Elaine because she's not afraid to tell me to shut the fuck up. Of course, every time I tell her something, it then turns into a fight about. Oh, okay. So Small Mouse, you're from Orlando. Here, let's have a new reader. Small Mouse. I'm calling you out now. Because I'm fun like that. You should have gotten a notification from me, Small Mouse. If you didn't, I'm going to be very sad. Oh, shit. Here. Small Mouse, you should see a pop-up. Oh. Sorry, I'm being a responsible diabetic with my testing kit. Okay. There we go. All right, so let's begin with the roundup. So, do we really want to talk about Elon Tiny Wee Wee? So I'm just going to talk about Elon Tiny Wee Wee then. And again, I just want to be, I mean, that's a good question. uh, I don't know. The night is yet young. Um, the night is yet young. So, but I will ask everybody, please try to hang through the live if you can, because I have some really cool news at the end of the live that I want to share with everybody. Um, so let's get one thing straight. Um, the man who builds cars with parts sourced globally has the audacity to claim the mantle of American manufacturing. Um, Elon Tiny Wee Wee has turned around and called Pete Navarro a moron and dumber than a sack of bricks, after Navarro correctly pointed out that Tesla isn't so much manufacturing as assembling foreign parts into expensive toys for the wealthy. So, sure, Small Schlong can thump his chest about being the most vertically integrated auto manufacturer, um, in the U.S. But the hollow boast crumbles under the weight of that reality. His stock prices dropped 19% after Donnie McShitstinker slapped on all of those auto tariffs, and suddenly the free market champion is sweating bullets because he's running the fuck out of money. That contradiction burns right through his entire saga. Elon Tiny Wee Wee leads the Department of Government Efficiency, a name that would make any Orwellian fan completely vomit, while simultaneously fighting against the very tariff that his boss is championing, right? The cognitive dissonance is deafening. So Elon Musk, and even further than that, Elon Musk's brother Kimball are all vastly fighting with Trump over the stupid tariff bullshit. And Musk is trying to tell Trump that the tariffs are a bad idea and to back it off. And Kimball Musk, Musk's brother, is beating up Navarro over the tariffs on Twitter. And it's fucking hilarious to watch. So why is that truly sickening? The White House's dismissal of Musk and his bullshit, and Kimball Musk and his bullshit from KKK Carolyn, is that boys will be boys, and that's why the fuck that's happening. Which is, again, total fucking bullshit. So what happens when Elon Tiny Wee Wee's economic self-interest collides with his loyalty to Turd Bucket Trump? How long before the administration's protectionist fever dreams crash into a wall of economic reality and it all falls the fuck apart? Amber Craig does that so that you guys can sort of keep along with it in case I fuck the language up and in case I speak incorrectly or something like that. But anyway, and who will bear the brunt of the ego-driven policy disaster? Certainly not billionaires squabbling over social media. Elaine, I completely, totally, and utterly agree with you 100%. That's exactly what the fuck is going to happen. So, while Musk is over here bitching and pissing and moaning to Trump about the tariffs and how he's running out of money and you need to stop the tariff bullshit, which I don't know, with China now getting a 104% tariff from Trump because of their bullshit, leading, oh my God, what a fucking disaster. Oh crap, hold on. Sorry, having a moment. Oh gosh. Okay, so the gutting of Homeland Security Office for Civil Rights and Civil Liberties has had a knife twisted into it, and now it's fucking up horribly. Okay, excuse me for just a second. Gosh, having a panicky moment. I hate that. Wow. I need to calm the fuck down. On March 21st, as most Americans were distracted by the daily circus outrage, Kristi Noem quietly executed a massacre of justice by shutting down the CRCL and firing 150 staffers dedicated to investigating abuses. So basically, all of the civil rights activity shit that's going on at the DHS is now fucking over. The stench of corruption is bleeding all over this shit. Um, before the killing blow, these investigators found their tools stripped away, memos mysteriously vanishing from government servers, and their travel budgets for detention center inspections slashed down to the fucking dollar, which is a fucking nightmare in and of itself, totally and utterly. The rotting heart of this cruelty was exposed in February when Doge leader Kyle Schutt had the gall to characterize a congressionally mandated immigrant caseworker program as money laundering. Get that into your head. Money laundering. Even more chilling was the DHS's acting general counsel, Joseph Mazzara, suggesting that they investigated under RICO laws to make it even more impactful. I don't know how the fuck they managed to pull that bullshit off. Last year, the now gutted office proceeds. Okay, excuse me for just 1 second. Sorry about that. Apologize. So the administration's defense oozes the stinking slime of authoritarianism as Noem continues to dismantle DHS's civil rights and civil liberties departments. What horrors will unfold now that this shit happens? I have no fucking idea. Gosh. Yeah, thanks, Craig, for the rundown on the article. So now Pat Toomey has since come out and told Donald McDumpstump that he walked into a buzzsaw with the tariff tantrum and the rest of us should be reaching for our economic crash helmets. The bitter taste of impending financial doom is already coating the tongues of everyday Americans, while the administration gorges itself on the delusion that any of this shit is actually going to play out. Several trillion dollars. That's the staggering amount of American savings that have been vaporized in the financial markets due to Donald Trump's economic ignorance because he's a fucking idiot and he doesn't understand what the fuck is happening. Really doesn't get it. Toomey's warning cuts through the bullshit like a scalpel. American manufacturing jobs are about to get butchered. The blood-curdling screams of workers being laid off will soon echo across factories and floors because Toomey bluntly put it, there's no longer competitive. They're no longer competitive because the inputs that they have to buy are just being exorbitantly priced because of the fucking tariffs. Trump is a fucking idiot. Oh, and then on top of that, Bissett told everybody yesterday that all of the federal employees that were fired over the last 2 months, they can go and get the factory and agricultural jobs that are open and they can work for the country to make the country better. Because they don't need to be federal workers, they need to be working in factories and shit. The acrid smell of that panic is wafting through congressional offices as lawmakers watch their constituents' livelihoods just completely fucking evaporate. Toomey predicts that they'll be reaching a breaking point. The question is, how many families will be financially slaughtered before that happens? Meanwhile, the White House economic arsonist, Peter Navarro, prances around predicting the Dow hitting 50,000, which it shows no sign of doing based on what we're seeing against the tariff bullshit. 7 Republicans have found their spines and supported legislation requiring congressional approval for tariffs, but Toomey hints that there are far more GOP lawmakers privately shitting themselves over these policies, but too cowardly to speak up because they're afraid to lose their seats and their constituencies. Although, I don't know. I think it's all just a crock of shit. How many American jobs will be sacrificed at the altar of Donnie Convict's ego before his own party revolts against him? I don't know. I think we're starting to see those cracks now. I think it's beginning to happen. So now we talk about the constitutional crisis. Chuck Grassley has since come out and said, and he's a Republican fossil who's been in Congress since, the beginning of fucking time, admits that Donnie Convict has seized too much power. We're knee deep in this putrid swamp of constitutional crisis. And now Grassley says, whoa. Okay, this is bad. The silent screams of the founding fathers echo through the rotting chambers of our democracy. The bitter irony burns like acid, and it does. Shrieked about executive overreach for 8 Obama years, now watches in nervous silence as Donnie McFartface wields tariff powers like a drunken toddler with a goddamn chainsaw. Grassley's admission that Congress has delegated too much authority to the president is less a revelation and more a desperate attempt to salvage what remains of legislative relevance. Not that Grassley had any of it to begin with. The Constitution explicitly gives Congress, not the president, the authority to regulate commerce. That musty parchment might as well be toilet paper now, because Trumpy McShitface unilaterally reshapes the economy, sending shockwaves of panic throughout American businesses. You can almost taste them in metallic fear in the boardrooms across the country. Grass. Fuck Grassley in the grass. Ass. No lube. What the fuck ever you want to say. I don't care. During the Finance Committee hearing that reeked of theatrical performance, Grassley pressed Trade Representative Jamison Greer on whether the administration plans to turn the tariffs into trade deals or if they're simply just feeding the U.S. Treasury. The question hangs in the air like the stench of decay. Are the tariffs economic policy or just thinly disguised tax? None of us know. Greer, however, responded with a masterclass bureaucratic bullshit response, promising a country-by-country approach while avoiding the nauseating truth. The tariffs exist to feed the president's ego and punish his perceived enemies. Consequences be damned, because he doesn't give a shit. Despite the overwhelming stink of constitutional crisis, Grassley can only muster the courage to co-sponsor legislation requiring congressional approval for presidential tariffs, a band-aid on a gushing arterial wound to the separation of powers, which we are already experiencing in a horrible display. How far will Trumpy McShitpants go in seizing congressional authority before even his own party draws the line? What does it tell us about our democracy when a 90-year-old senator in the last line of defense against executive tyranny says, well, and most crucially, when did Republicans abandon their principles about limited executive power, which they crowed on and jizz-fested on for years, and now they're not even having that conversation? Now, does anybody have any questions? Right. So the Supreme Court said that Trump can use the Alien Enemies Act. I'm not even going to report on that because that's a fucking nightmare in and of itself on a whole different level. However, that said, the cold knife of betrayal is slicing through the flesh of 1 million people who followed the rules as Donnie McNutsack's administration revokes the legal status with casual cruelty of basically 985,000 people. who used the CBP One app, who stood in line, followed the process, sought asylum through legal channels, are now being told their existence here is criminal and they will be deported. The bitter taste of America's broken promise coats their tongues as they receive emails ordering self-deportation through the mockingly named CBP Home app. So they have an app, and the app is telling them, you need to leave or you will be deported. Even though you followed the rules, you need to leave or you'll be fucking deported. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem claimed that the Biden administration abused the parole authority, reeks of the putrid stench of political vengeance. This is where the illegal aliens exist. The people who approached the ports of entry, followed the instructions, received temporary work authorizations, and began building lives while awaiting asylum decisions. They followed the rules. They did what they were told. Now they're being told, fuck you, get the fuck out of the country. The sickening hypocrisy burns like acid when you realize Ukrainians and Afghanis are exempt from this policy. The message screams through the silence. Some refugees deserve compassion. Others can fuck off and leave the goddamn country. Predominantly brown and black people, they deserve complete and utter cruelty. This comes after the administration already gutted the protections of over 500,000 Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans who had U.S.-based financial sponsors. On April 24th, they will join the ranks of the hunted, their legal status evaporating like morning dew under the scorching sun of complete and total and utter xenophobia, which is fucking bullshit in my opinion, and what the fuck. The suffocating weight of fear now blankets immigrant communities as the Dawn of the Dung attempts to terminate temporary protected status for 600,000 Venezuelans and 500,000 Haitians. A move so nakedly cruel that even the courts temporarily blocked it. The final twist of the knife, migrants who don't immediately flee will be fined $1,000 per day and additional penalties of $1,000 to $5,000 a day for those who leave late, plus potential imprisonment. Poverty is punishment, destitution is deterrent, which is fucking bullshit again. What happens to the children, many of them American citizens by birthright citizenship, whose parents suddenly face deportation? How many families will be ripped apart by this policy of manufactured suffering? And what does it say about our national soul when we're following the legal process leads to the punishment rather than protection? Somebody explain that to me. I don't fucking get it. So, now we're going to talk about my historical context analysis that if you're not a paid subscriber, you wouldn't have read this. I'm going to go through it anyway because even though that's paid content, we're on live and you need to hear it anyway. So, the historical context of protectionist trade policies. This is something that you need to be aware of. The current administration's tariff policies represent the culmination of a century-long pendulum swing back and forth between protectionism and free trade. Smoot-Hawley in the 1930s stands as a historical warning, imposing duties on 20,000 imported goods and deepening the Depression. So Smoot-Hawley made the Depression worse, categorically worse. What's distinctive about today's protectionism is its strategic inconsistency. Unlike historical tariffs designed to protect nascent industries, as advocated by Alexander Hamilton, or maintain competitive advantages, as practiced during America's Industrial Revolution, current tariffs reflect a patchwork of carve-outs benefiting specific corporate interests rather than coherent economic strategy. Data reveals a very troubling pattern regarding these tariffs. Industries receiving tariff protection overwhelmingly align with major campaign donors. Steel tariffs mirror those that were attempted in 2002, which the International Trade Commission conceded cost American consumers $30 million for each steel job temporarily saved. Meanwhile, billionaire wealth in tariff-protected sectors has increased 27%. So the billionaires that were protected from the tariffs, they're actually benefiting. Everybody else, fuck off. While workers' wages in those same industries have stagnated or gone down. The historical through line becomes clear. From the Tariff of Abominations in 1828 that benefited Northern industrialists and the Southern consumers' expense to today's policies, American protectionism has constantly functioned as wealth transfer from consumers to capital owners. It's bullshit. Here's the problem. There's a constitutional power shift that we are watching happen categorically. The current presidential assertion of unilateral trade authority represents the culmination of a century-long power migration from Congress to the executive branch, a transformation with profound constitutional implications. So Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution implicitly and explicitly grants Congress the power to regulate commerce with foreign nations. That placement was entirely deliberate. The founders, traumatized by British mercantilism, intended trade policy to follow from the most representative branch, in this case, the legislative branch. Until the early 20th century, Congress jealously argued that this authority, with tariffs compromising the federal government's primary revenue source and therefore its most significant political battleground. The watershed moment came with Smoot-Hawley and that disaster, which prompted the 34 Reciprocal Trade Agreements Act, the first significant delegation of tariff authority to the president. Because Congress controlling that shit back then was a really bad idea, or so they thought. This transfer accelerated during the Cold War as trade became a national security tool, culminating in Section 232, the Trade Expansion Act of 1962, and Section 301, the Trade Act of 1974, the very provisions that are now being weaponized by the current administration. What makes the current situation constitutionally unprecedented is threefold. First, the invocation of national security for tariffs against allies fundamentally distorts the original legislative intent of Section 232. Second, the simultaneous deployment of multiple trade authorities creates a practically unreviewable executive power. Third, the administration's explicit rejection of World Trade Organization oversight removes the international constraint system that previously bounded executive trade actions. So, former White House counsel Jack Quinn observes that this expansion creates a constitutional moment requiring clarification of separation of powers. The historic parallel is the 52 Youngstown Steel case, where the Supreme Court rejected Truman's seizure of steel mills during the Korean War despite national security claims. Today's court faces the same question. When does delegated authority become unconstitutional usurpation? We don't know yet. The Supreme Court hasn't ruled on it. They haven't taken it on. They don't know what the fuck it is. So, there is a historical precedent and human impact as a result of all of that. We'll get to that in a second. The mass revocation of legal status represents an unprecedented scale of administrative status adjustment, but allows for disturbing historical patterns of executive action targeting immigrant communities during economic uncertainty. The closest historical parallel for this is the Mexican repatriation of the 30s. Well, we've talked about this before. When approximately 2 million of Mexican descent, mainly legally present and some U.S. citizens, were pressured to leave during the Great Depression. Similarly, Operation Wetback, and I hate using that word because it's racist as fuck, but that's what they called it back in '54, and probably where that horribly racist term came from, forcibly removed approximately 1.3 million Mexican nationals, often separating families with mixed immigration status. The current action echoes these episodes, but with a significant distinction. It targets people who followed explicit government instructions for legal entry and processing, and Trump said, fuck you, I don't give a shit, get the fuck out of my country. Interviews with affected families reveal devastating reality beyond statistics. The Mendez family, parents granted parole through CBP-1 after fleeing cartel violence, children enrolled in American schools, a father employed in construction, now face returning to a region where their asylum cooperation makes them a fucking target. We did everything right, Elena Mendez explained in her interview. We waited 9 months for an appointment, provided documentation, received work permits, paid taxes. Now they're telling us we're criminals and get the fuck out of the country. Legal experts identify 3 constitutional vulnerabilities with this problem. Now we're here. First, due process concerns under the Fifth Amendment have been violated as a result of this, as articulated in Reno v. Flores, 1993, establishing that even non-citizens possess procedural rights. Second, potential equal protection violations given the disparate treatment between nationalities. And third, the administrative law challenges under the Administrative Procedures Act regarding arbitrary and capricious action without sufficient justification for policy reversal. It's all bullshit. And so they're violating so many different levels constitutionally to mass deport all of these people, and it's bullshit. Constitutional law professor Amanda Hollis-Brusky notes regarding the mass deportation problem, it creates an extraordinary test of executive authority to retroactively redefine legal presence, which is bullshit. Can't do that. Historical precedent suggests courts have typically deferred to executive immigration authority, but the systematic nature of this revocation places it in uncharted constitutional territory. And once it gets up to the Supreme Court, guess what? Fuck you, Trump. Sit the fuck down, shut the fuck up, and it's fucking over. Whew. Okay. How is everybody doing now? Whew. Yeah, I agree, Lan. I don't think the Supreme Court will ever allow that. And so here's what we're going to do. She knows it's coming. I mean, she shouldn't even. She knows it's coming. I mean, hurry the fuck up. Just accept it. Don't fuck around. Just hit the OK button. Come on. Elaine, you're really hurting me. I'm very hurt right now, Elaine. Oh, I'm going to keep hitting send until you see it. Don't fucking run away from me.
No, I didn't run away. I couldn't. I'm on my laptop, and I was trying to do it from there. But it was sending the notification to my phone.
Don't fucking run away from me.
No, I didn't run away. I couldn't. I'm on my laptop, and I was trying to. See, I'm getting it twice. Oh, shit. Hold on. Sending the notification to my phone. Let me get that off of there. No, I didn't run away. I'm on my laptop. See, I'm telling you, I've got it going twice. Hold on.
Oh, okay. Really? Elaine, I'm gonna. Wow. Amber, I'm not hot. If you mean Elaine twice, then I'll agree. But let's see. So I want to see if I can. Yeah. Oh, I'll argue with you. I look like shit.
Okay. I shut down my laptop.
Okay, great.
So I'm only here once. I still got to figure out how to. I just got a new like a docking station because I want to be able to use my multiple, monitors in my home office with my personal laptop, and I can't figure out how to get them all connected. It's like spaghetti junction in here. Anyway,
That's a problem.
it is, but hey. So
Okay, so go. What did you think about? What do you think about the deportation problem?
I think that we don't have the right to deport anybody. We're all
Well, no,
sitting on we're all
yeah,
sitting on
clearly we
stolen
don't. But
land. I mean, um, you can't own land, you know. So I mean, what hooker app? Oh no.
oh,
Anyway,
Craig.
we're
Craig. I would rather lick a hooker's ass than answer that question.
let me see if I can get one of the hairy pussies here. Come here. Come on. Oh, for Pete's sake! Hold on just a minute. Here, here's a good girl. All right, here she is. This is my number 2 child here. My my demon child. Yeah, she's a good girl. Anyway, no, we're going to try to have a serious political discussion here,
Yeah,
and these people want to
we're
talk
here to
about
have a serious
hookers and
political
pussies. But
discussion. So, basically, um, yeah, like whenever anybody says to me, I don't know who the fuck that is, go the fuck away. Um, when anyone says to me, get off of American land,
mhm,
we were here first. I'm
mhm.
like, you need to talk to the indigenous people.
Well, and
Um,
even they, uh, I can't remember whether it was high school or whatever. Even they are thought to have originally come to the North American continent over Bering Straits
yes,
from
the
Asia.
land bridge
Yeah.
thing, right?
So, I mean, I, we can't do anything about the fact that the land was taken away from them, but we
No,
certainly don't have to be dicks about it now and tell other people you can't come here because,
no, because that's bullshit.
no, I mean, it's just, and I don't know, this whole idea just makes me want to scream and claw my face. So,
So we shouldn't have the right to deport anybody.
no, I don't think we should.
Okay, but we're doing it. I mean, they basically
Mhm,
invalidated 2 million people's citizenship in the last
mhm,
48 hours.
mhm,
Um, and so, I mean, back to the core of the argument that we invalidated 985,000 people who were using the CBP1 app, and their assertion for that was that Biden was using the pardoning power of CBP incorrectly.
mhm,
But those are all people who thought that they were doing what they were supposed to do
mhm.
to, you know, I'm just following the process.
Yeah. Well,
Um, which,
I'm just.
which by the way, I didn't bring this in the update because it came out after I did the evening update. Get this: a federal appeals court judge has now required the White House to restore the Associated Press.
Wow, that's good since them and Reuters are about the only trustworthy news sources.
People have asked me this: what do I use for news sources?
Mhm,
The Associated Press, The Hill,
mhm,
as everybody is painfully aware, I'm sure. Um, uh, but that's because The Hill has historically been a bipartisan.
mhm,
Yeah, they badmouth. Um, but independent journalists, yeah, Midas. But basically, AP Routers, The Hill, and then all of the independent journalists. So Midas, Jeff T,
Bell of the
Plunkett.
fifth column, which is
Yeah,
now Bell
right.
of Durant.
Yeah. Basically, everybody in the first column. ProPublica and the New Republic are really good resources, but sometimes, look, I I love Rebecca to the ends of the earth. She'll never talk to me, Craig, but I think Rebecca is a much more amazing. Rebecca is a much more amazing journalist than I am. She really is. Um, I mean, I only try to, you know, I play a really good journalist on TV.
Right with that. Well, and I also was going to say uh, when you said that you were, changing the arrangement of your good. I mean, writers should be paid for what they do. You know, when I was
I
in my
mean,
when I was in my early 20s was the last time I tried to write for a living, and I learned to appreciate navy bean sandwiches. Let me tell you.
I think Aaron Parnas is good too, Diosa. I
Mhm.
really do. Parnas, he writes really well, and I like his writing style. I don't think that he necessarily he doesn't have a flow for what he's writing, so he sometimes he goes all over the map, but at other times, he writes really really good shit. Uh, so Small Mouse, I'm gonna keep trying to invite you into the live because I think I want to talk to you because you're cool.
Well, I tell you, I was having trouble getting the invite through my laptop.
Oh,
So
interesting.
if she's on a laptop rather than a phone, that might be the problem.
Well, that's you know how it is. I randomly pick on people at
Hmm.
random times
Hmm.
um, to try to drag them in here because I want to talk to them. Uh, so, um, yeah, so a judge has ordered the Trump White House to restore AP access. The other thing is that strongly appears that um, it strongly appears that um, the GOP is revolting against the blueprint limbo for the budget. And so I said this in the morning session this morning was that Trump's golden age is two pronged. So tariffs and then tax cuts. And so the budget proposal involves those tax cuts. Well, if Congress doesn't lean in and approve Trump's tax cuts, then it's not gonna go well.
Hmm.
Um, it's not. It's just not gonna go well. It's gonna be really bad. Um, so, but the economy's doing so horribly. Um, I'm 50-50 now. I wonder, is the GOP, are they going to lean into Trump's tax cuts thinking it will save them, or are they going to resist him because the economy's going so horribly?
Hmm.
And I think this is a legitimate question. So I don't, it's like, well, I don't know. Um, I'm like, I'm of two minds about it. Um,
Hmm.
and I think that, well, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Um, we'll see what happens. It's really fucked up. My one of my friends, who by the way I keep trying to bring her in here, Jinx, because she
Hmm.
wrote this really fabulous article about smart investors looking into Asian markets.
Hmm.
And so I'm gonna keep trying to get her to come in here. Shit. Let me see because it was a brilliant piece of work that she wrote. Uh, and I wanted her to talk to it. Plus, she's a trans person, so. Um, uh,
Which country?
oh,
I'm sorry. When?
like Japan. Like there is a strong suspicion that um, market people are looking at in Korea and even China from an investment perspective to park their money because those markets aren't hurting as bad as the U.S. are.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the
Well,
question.
I mean, do they really think that they're going to bring manufacturing back from those countries? They shipped it over there because they want to pay these poor people
No,
5 cents a month.
I mean that's not even. We're not even talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, uh, we're not even talking about like investing in those markets to drag the ship back. I'm literally talking about people who are investing into those markets just to park their money because those
Mm-hmm.
markets aren't volatile like the U.S. market is.
Well, but they would be if they did yank all the manufacturing back.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
what I'm
yeah, yeah,
saying.
yeah,
So,
exactly,
uh,
exactly. So, Craig, will you do me the service of grabbing the link to the Smart Investors article that's on the front page, please, and drop that in so that we can talk through it. Um, uh, because I'm going to talk through this for, uh, I'm going to talk through this uh, for Jinx because she's not here. Um, which is interesting. It's a very interesting piece. Oh yeah, beautiful. Thanks, Craig. Oh, and then there's Rick. Let's get Rick in here. Because every time we get Rick in here, it's oh shit. And he's smoking too.
Yeah, you're gonna have to put up with me doing that because that's been my day. Fucking A.
So Rick, now I have to ask your opinion about this.
Hmm.
Because Jinx did a write up about this, and I posted it on the TLD of the page. Um, it is suggesting that smart investors are looking to Asian markets.
Yeah.
So is that I'm going to look at an Asian market to park my money so it won't be volatile, or is that actually an investment concern to try?
Yeah. I can answer that pretty quick because I have a lot of exposure to it. The thing is right now, um, it is absolutely 100% probably one of the best places if you have the money and you have the appetite to have your money on the other side of an ocean far far away, which some people don't. It is absolutely a very solid choice to invest your money, but keep in mind that the markets that they have are very different than the United States, New York Stock Exchange, that kind, and the commodities exchanges in Chicago and blah blah blah. But the point to keep in mind is that it involves just as much research and there is a lot less of that what I'll call horizontal aggregate investment. So like we have these ideas of index funds and you know uh, basically any aggregation tool that buys a bunch of things across a bunch of sectors and kind of minimizes risk that way. Okay, that's a very established practice here in the United States. It is not over there in Asia because it's. I'll tell you, I could talk for an hour and I won't, but I'll just sum it up in one sentence. It has taken for fucking ever for the individual actors in the Asian market system to get along long enough to develop what they've got right now in Hong Kong and Singapore and some other places. They've looked to the West for some help. We've given it to them. But yeah, it's a very like you got to do your homework. You got to put the time in. And then when you have done it, though, I'll tell you what, there are some super big winners that just you can practically let your money just sit and float there and live off of the either the dividend payments or just take checks out on the interest, or sorry, on the accumulation of value on the stock prices themselves. So yeah, that was a little longer probably than what you wanted, but that's my best short version for this particular day. I hope that's helpful.
Well, when I look at Jinx's article, um, that's very clearly um, what the. Please ignore the wanton audio in my background. Was that to her point, labor shortages and increased costs. So many U.S. industries depend on low-wage immigrant workers to fill labor gaps. For example, the agricultural sector saw significant declines in available workers after the increased deportation efforts. And so the tariff war policy fed into that, which increased costs for U.S. manufacturers, and reshoring and diversification of supply chains started to happen. So that caused an acceleration investment in Asian tech companies.
Yes, absolutely. And that investment in tech is an interesting one because they are incredibly determined to get their hands on the not so much they're not trying to I'm sorry, let me back up and put a coherent thought together. My first thing is that the most of the Asian countries are absolute masters at duplicating something. If you give them a kitchen mixer, right? And you say, make this product. They will take that thing apart and measure it and dimension it and everything and have the engineering diagrams to you within an hour. And the same thing with semiconductors. If you give them a semiconductor, they can reproduce it. So a lot of the chips that go into electronics are all wholesale reproduced. That's an easy feat for Vietnam, China, just South Korea. All of those guys know how to do this, right? And with that in mind, then you have to look at it and go, all they need to accomplish most of the cloning of our technology is involved in the machinery that is used to make it. And there is, I don't know if it was mentioned in that article or not, but there's a company that sells. They happen to be I think it's Norwegian or Swedish, but they sell this one piece of equipment, and they are the only people on the planet that make it, that actually manufactures a key piece of most microprocessors. So their equipment is in super high demand, and nobody else can seem to catch up to them in terms of how well they're doing it. And so their stuff, they're like, hey, fuck America and all your problems. We don't really care. We're going to sell to whoever the hell we want because we can charge whatever the hell we want. And oh, by the way, China's on that list. So China's going to have, Vietnam's going to have, and South Korea's going to have. They already have. This deal is done. It was actually finished in October last year, and the deal's done where they've now got that really high end equipment from that one company that makes it that can actually mimic semiconductors that are produced here in the States or largely produced by like TSMC and those other big countries. And it's an amazing process. They are the thing that's always shortchanged Asian markets. And my wife and I have talked about this, and she's Chinese, so you can take that for what it's worth. I mean, she's like, I don't mean she's China, like American born Chinese. I mean, she came from China to here to get her master's degree, and that's when we met. And she and I talk about this all the time, where it's like that level of ability to clone things is really, really high in all of the Asian countries because they are masters of that detail to perfection. The thing that they're not so good at, on the flip side of that same coin, is innovating. Okay, and that's just a flat out truth that if you say, I got a business problem, I don't know how to visualize that thing into, you know, something that doesn't even exist yet on paper, they're going to spend a lot more cycles trying to figure that out. And they've done a lot to import people from all over the world who are better at it than they are to teach them so that they can learn. And that's a huge investment, by the way. It's one of the big beefs that we have as a country with China right now is the fact that they do this government subsidized basically training and learning, and basically they invest a certain amount of money into these companies to make sure that they are staffed with people so that they can produce products that are super competitive, if not loss leaders against our stuff. And
Right.
that's something I wrote this article on Navarro today, and I hate that motherfucker. I'm sorry, I don't hate him. I just don't like him.
Oh, come
Um,
on, man.
sorry.
Rick,
Anyways, it's been a
Remember
long
who you're
day.
talking to.
My
the only
edit
reason
button.
the only reason I don't I here's why I hate calling him a moron, but that's because Musk and his brother call Navarro a moron, and I don't want to agree with those motherfuckers.
Well, good for you. So I was writing this thing, and I came up to my point, and all that was to bring it up. It's like this tariff business is like just I don't know if people here realize it or not because I didn't have a really clear picture of it until today, which is the tariffs are just one of 7 bricks that are going to be hit over the head of all of our allies, and the other 6 have to do with these grievances that Navarro and all these other motherfuckers in the administration that cooked up Project 2025 have about the trade deficit stuff, right? And it goes into customs practices, goes into this adversary funding where things are sold as lost leaders so that they can compete against us. It has to do with things, VAT, value added tax, all these other things. Those are the things that when you see any of Scott Bessent, any of these guys on TV talking, the tariffs are not enough. They've got a list of 6 other major categories of things. They're just getting ready. They're warming up with tariffs. The other 6 things haven't been released yet. And those are the things that are going to really fuck people up because those are going to turn sideways on the economy and on all of us in the states because it's going to it's going to set a fire off that nobody's going to know how to put out. And I ripped Navarro a new one in my article because the whole idea of let's solve a problem by lighting the fucking building on fire with the people in it and then just walking the fuck away. And then we'll come back after everybody's dead and cremated inside of that building, and we'll figure out what to do from that point. That's literally the fucking mindset of these people. That Russell Vought, the Navarro, Besant, they don't give a shit about any of us, and that if it frosts my it frosts me to be absolutely honest that people would think like that with that level of inhumanity in it, and I don't relate to it. I never have, and I never will, and I'm just it angers me in a way that's like really. They better not cross me on in a dark alley tonight because I might be there, and they might not leave. So I'm just being, but you get my idea. I find that behavior to be despicable. So
When you talk about burning the building down, I have to ask: is your real name Eddie Willers? No, I'm just kidding.
yes.
Look. As a bit of social commentary, I will say I have never been a Randian fan, and if anybody is,
Yeah.
if any of you guys are Rand fans, I just be careful.
This is not the channel for you.
Yeah, if you're a Rand fan, this isn't the channel for you.
Well, tell me, just because I did like differential philosophy and all that. What's the deal with her that you don't like, so that I understand it just on a very simplistic level?
Okay, so it's two-pronged. One, her ideology. Her ideology is entirely egocentric.
Yeah.
So Republicans love her because, in her mind, it's all about self-serving.
Right.
So like her big thing is there shouldn't be victimless crime.
Yeah.
So in Atlas Shrugged, Eddie Willers is the guy that burns a building down, and she asserts that he shouldn't be arrested for arson or destruction or anything, because he burns the building down, nobody was hurt, and he owned the building.
Okay.
So that's not a crime because nobody was hurt, and he just burned the building down because he wanted to burn the building down, not because he wanted to collect the insurance or any of that shit. It was just right. And so that's the first problem. Then the other issue that I have with her is that in my previous married life, my brother-in-law was Ayn Rand founding member number 63.
Wow.
So he was
Holy shit.
Right. He was married to my then wife's sister, and in his house he had a hand-drawn picture of her hanging up in his house that was drawn by her, by the way. And so yeah, I got an earful about all that objectivist bullshit.
Okay.
But yeah, and I should point out that Leonard Peikoff, who I believe is the current cultural successor to all of that, he's like the president of the Ayn Rand Foundation. His wife is a Trump cabinet member, or was. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
The Randian people are not. They're just not fun people to be around.
Right.
Well, just,
yeah, and I've read, I've obviously I've read, like I said, a whole bunch of it. So I've had it, in fact, let me see, right, right here I have it. So I was trying to find a quote the other day as well. I pull it off my shelf. I was trying to find something she had written. God knows how long ago.
You mean other than I got mine, fuck you?
Something like that. Yeah, it was along that line, right? And anyway, I don't. By the way, that just was a weird coincidence. I happen to have that book out, but I normally have it in my storage bins. But the idea, the idea of what she says and what she stands for, I understand that. I was just curious what parts of it, because there's so much surface area with her that you can pick up on different whys to the objection, and it's like, well, I just wanted to kind of get your take on it, your read on it. I agree with you. There's nothing that was,
So the other thing about her is that she believed that welfare shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Social programs were bullshit and all of that. Well, here's the thing about that. Huh?
Until.
Right. So social welfare shouldn't exist or whatever. She preached about that, preached about it years and years and years.
And then
in the last 4 years of her life, she was on Social Security benefit and she lived in public housing.
It's like Phyllis Schlafly spent decades not being a housewife and telling women that they should stay home with their children.
Oh, yeah.
The hypocrisy.
When she died, I could just imagine her standing before St. Peter and explaining how come that applied to everybody else, but not her.
But not her.
That's a good one. Holy shit. Yeah, I heard that story.
Right, and she lived in the projects. She lived in the projects.
You fucker, I'm not going to. As George Carlin once said, I wouldn't fuck that with a stolen dick.
I've heard so many variations on that. Oh my God. That's funny, Elaine. Holy shit. I haven't heard that one in a long time.
God damn it, Elaine. I have to post this shit later. What the fuck?
Oh no. What does that mean? You have to edit the hell out of it?
Hitting the cut button, in, the out, the in, the out. Oops, okay. Leave that out. Good deal. Well,
like I said, it's all those brothers, man. My mom was like, "Oh, I wanted a nice little girl." I'm like, "Well, you shouldn't have had all those fucking boys first,
That's
man."
right. That's a great. How many brothers did you have? Because my mom
Four.
had a bunch.
I
How
was the
Four?
many?
youngest and the only girl, and
And
there
the
were
only,
four of them before me.
is that
Wow.
why you're a lesbian?
That's at the
I do.
root, man.
I do have a thing for sweatshirts and hoodies and that kind of thing. So
Well, you know.
she
Um,
ended up in the projects the same way that everybody else does. Only, she didn't want to cut them a break.
Yeah, Rouser. I basically ended up in the projects and living on welfare because she ran out of money.
yeah.
Mm.
Um,
Wow.
I mean,
because
these are the kind of people that call it virtue signaling when you're not a complete and total dick. When you want people to actually be able to live a decent life, without having to go out and lick a hooker's ass.
Well,
There, I said it. Will you
yeah.
guys calm the hell down now?
I mean that's a good point, Elaine. And I want to like dovetail off of that because
Mm,
the point, the thing that I've struggled with in all of the Yarbinism 2025 project, all that shit, right?
mhm,
In the conservative line of thinking, and by the way, one of my sorry about that. I had a mentor who I respected the shit out of this guy for literally 15 years and worked side by side with him every day and every work day and a lot of weekends too. But we went through a lot and we never ever talked about politics and we never talked about religion. And there was a lot of other shit that went on between us so that there was always, there were always other things to talk about. But there was a point where we had both migrated to another company from the company we came from and landed in the same spot, and oddly enough and landed in the same kind of configuration where he was the boss and I was a subordinate. And went to lunch one day because this place had a fantastic cafeteria. It was the best I've ever been in. And yeah, sushi bar and all this other shit. I was like, wow. So we were sitting there at lunch, and we both didn't have meetings right after lunch, so we had time to bullshit. And I said, I've never asked you in all this time what political party you're part of, if you are part of any. I said, I didn't know. And he says, oh, I'm libertarian. And I said, oh, well, what is, and at that point in my career, I didn't know what the fuck that meant. And so he proceeded to kind of lay it out for me. Well, I just sort of nodded my head and went, yeah, okay, doesn't sound too bad. You want the government out of your paycheck and you don't want, big government's a bad thing. And I get it. And then a little later, I think he felt emboldened by that conversation because he brought it up again and we talked some more. And out of his mouth comes, and this is something I just couldn't wrap my head around for weeks, was, I want to get rid of if all these damn social welfare programs would just fall off the face of the earth, we'd be so much better. And, at that moment, a switch clicked in my
we,
head and it was one way. And at that moment, that guy stopped being anything close to a friend because
mhm,
that was my trigger. And it was my thing because I grew up in a Midwest red state, Republican Reagan parents. One was a professor, one was a teacher. They bought fully into that line of shit that Reagan was selling back in the '80s and all that. So and you always believe whatever the fuck they believe. That's what I believed. Okay, great. But I'll tell you what, my life went down a totally different fucking road unexpectedly on a bunch of things all at once. And I think I've made a comment once or twice maybe to you, Wendy. I don't want to go into it now, but I think you're kind of where I went with some of this, and I ended up having to travel, and I traveled to all kinds of places all over the country. I worked in homeless shelters in Washington D.C. and in Chicago. And I was on in a place called Baraka Farms where they rehabilitated, young heroin addicts, and they needed, people there. So I did a lot of time in that social space, and my eyes were wide open to the fact that in the cities, the magnitude of the problem that you're dealing with in terms of social welfare and safety nets are so much different than what the average motherfucker that lives where I live right now even has a clue about. I mean, they will tell you in one breath that it's all a waste of money, and they'll fall back onto, this mythical woman who drives a Cadillac, makes $110,000 a year from food stamps, and has 10 kids and 5 fathers and all that. This was the image that was pushed down our throats of how the abuse happened, and it's like, no, when you live it, it's like you realize real damn quick that is so far from reality. You couldn't even begin to imagine. And so
Mhm.
after all that travel and all that time and effort that I put in, there was no way I was ever going back to a simple conservative, mindset that I had been in and kind of protected in this bubble. And that's my problem right now. Is like, if you take me at my age, holy shit. I was around testing the internet when it was still DARPA net. So I was in it from the very, very beginning, and now it's completely advanced, and it's now you've got these people online all the time talking across the entire world at all times. And I lived in a one bubble, and there's still the same information bubbles that exist, like on X, where you can live in your own little echo chamber of bullshit. And that's the thing
Yeah,
that
like
I'm
the button
amazed at.
says,
Yeah,
the internet. Now
yeah,
you can meet millions of losers.
yeah, it's right, and it's like,
Uh,
fuck me, really. Anyway, I'm sorry, but I just my point to it was, once I saw what it really looks like in those cities and what people actually have to live with, that you can't. I don't even know why the fuck we asked the question about the necessity of these social service programs. And then, oh, by the way, let's add on top of that, I had my job eliminated once like this. And I read an article not too long ago about how people go in and out of poverty so fast in this day and age, because you suddenly you're living paycheck to paycheck, you lose your job, you're instantly poor, you instantly need those social services. And then all of a sudden you go along, do your thing, bang, you get a job, and you come back out of poverty, and now you're still back to living paycheck to paycheck. And when I read that article, I thought, yeah, you know what? There's so many people I know who've done that, and I've done it myself. And I've been there. And I happened to be living in Connecticut when it happened, by the way. And Connecticut is such a big D state that I can't tell you how smooth the process was. Then I went to North Carolina, and it happened again, and that's in our state. And I'll tell you what, that was the most miserable fucking experience in the world, to try to get even the most slim, slim, slim little benefit of health care out of those guys, because they didn't want to give it to you. And anyway, I'm sorry, I'm off my soapbox, but I just want to let you know, kind of share where I've been. It gives you a little bit of an idea.
mhm.
Maybe helps.
Well,
So,
I know. I mean, from my perspective, Rick, I think your experience, my own experience, and the experience of the other readers, I think this all just provides context.
yeah,
Because yeah, we've all been one end against the middle.
yeah,
I mean, hell, I got fired from a job a month ago because I'm a trans person.
yeah, and,
If
and
that's not, I mean, if that's not cultural appropriation, I don't know what the fuck it is. I don't know what the fuck.
yeah, that's so
Uh,
true. I mean, it's so fucked up too. And then, wow, and
but
then
I, to your other point, when I was much younger, there were some key experiences that I witnessed, that I had personally. Um, one of those, I tell people this story all the time, is, and we'll just sort of close on this, is in college, I had a friend who was a heroin addict. And so one weekend, me and all of my then friends threw him in the back of my car, drove up to my friend Frank, up to his house in North Georgia in the mountains, um, and essentially detoxified this fucker.
Wow.
Cold turkey. Yeah, took him cold turkey. And you have that experience, that quantifies all of the shit that, because by the way, Charlie broke my nose that weekend.
Yeah, I was gonna
Because,
say you're lucky you were safe at all.
yeah, because he went totally fucking nuts, and it was But anyway, there were key experiences that I had and I want to be very clear. When I was younger, I was very much a diehard libertarian.
Yeah.
And
that's it. You're dead to me.
yeah.
Oh my God,
my
Elaine!
partner.
Whoa.
I have a brother who's a libertarian. Oh my God. We go around and around about this shit. He's like, I don't know, how come you trust the government for everything? I'm like, I don't know how you trust corporations for everything.
Right, exactly.
Yes, that right there.
Yeah, you can't privatize everything. Why don't even get me started.
No, I know. No.
But I came out of that, like, when I
love you, Elaine. Sorry, go ahead. Please continue.
No, I completely agree. And so, yeah, there were formative experiences that I had early on.
Yeah.
And then, of course, coming out as a queer person, coming out as a trans person, that was I became even more viscerally angry.
Yeah.
About
and can you answer just one little like curiosity thing with me, which just runs around in my head like a whatever a thought once in a while, stray thought, and that is, did you have to endure that in but I have a somewhat stereotypical type opinion of Georgia, so I understand Atlanta is very different in many ways, but the question I have is, did you have to come out in the middle of all the danger that redneck area, has? Because that's not a safe place for people like you in that situation.
I will quantify this for you, and I will make it even clearer for you. I came out in Kennesaw, Georgia. Now, does anybody understand the drama around Kennesaw, Georgia?
I don't. So
okay,
help me out.
So here's the thing about Kennesaw. Kennesaw, Georgia, is the only city in the state of Georgia that requires you by city ordinance to own a gun.
What?
Yes, you are required by city ordinance, and they passed this shit. They passed this shit in Kennesaw because they wanted to stop crime. Now, here's what's wild. While I was going, because I came out as queer first, and then I came out as trans after coming out as queer. So Carolyn Cossey, who was one of the Bond girls in the For Your Eyes Only movie.
Yeah.
No. I think it was A View to a Kill. But anyway, and then she did a Playboy centerfold. She actually lived in my neighborhood, and I actually knew her.
Yeah.
And so her big deal was, she did a full transition in the early 70s. And then, like most trans people from the time, Diosa, you should pay attention to this. She had to sign an NDA that said she could never reveal that she could never reveal that she was previously a man. She could never reveal anything about her previous gender. She had to sign an NDA that said she could never date a woman.
Yeah.
All this shit. And so when I came across to her, she had already, in the 80s or whatever, she came out and she said, yes, I'm going to violate all my NDAs. I was once a man. And here was the thing. She'd already done a full, completely nude Playboy centerfold.
Wow.
And nobody knew at all. I Google this shit. Carolyn Cossey, you'll see it. And so I asked her, I was like, what the fuck did you do? And she was like, well, I mean, after I came out in the 80s and told everybody, like, it killed my Hollywood career. So, like Flynn Boylan and the others, I just started writing books, and that's how I got by.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so, or whatever, I was like, well, and she was transformative for me as a queer person going into being a trans person.
Sure.
Which was really amazing for me personally. One of the things that helped me embrace my transition.
Right.
I will tell you, on TikTok, I follow and have regular conversations with another trans personality, Megan Cavalier.
I don't do much TikTok, so.
Yeah, well, here's the thing about Megan. Megan Cavalier, actually. Cavalier. Anyway, was an late 80s, early 90s adult film actress.
Oh.
And so, so she was completely trans. But anyway, so there's a whole lot of, but yeah, I had to deal with redneck Georgia coming out as queer and trans, and it was a nightmare. Literally the first time that I went out, femme presenting, I got into a fight with somebody.
Wow.
And
damn.
I'm 6'6" and I weigh 250. So you really want to pick a fight with me? It's not going to go well.
That was actually another question, and I didn't. You mentioned that before, and your physical dimensions would be intimidating to me. I mean, I'm a fat, but I'm a shorter guy, and I would never, at that height, I would never think of picking on anything. I mean, you could come up to me with, tattoos on your face and a nose ring sticking straight through it, and I wouldn't, I'd be like, okay. I mean, it would be like that anyway, but I would be really not inclined to say anything, just given your, your physical dimensions. You're kind of, it sounds like you're, not somebody to be fucked with. So that's my short version of that. So,
well, Rick, I'm just going to tell you, because I tell everybody this eventually at one point or another. If I come after you, it's not my fist you have to worry about. It's not my fist you have to worry about. I don't even believe in carrying a gun. That said, however, I will show you something that you've never seen before, and everyone who is one of my readers can now see something that you've never seen before. Hanging on my wall, there is a 485-year-old katana.
Oh my God!
Notice the mudding edging on there, which I've maintained lovingly for many years. Anyway, so there you go. So if I come after you with the Muramasa, then
I'm having flashbacks to Kill Bill here, man. Wow, that's
yeah, I'm the Kill Bill bitch.
All right.
My ex has a katana. I'll have to ask her about that.
Do what?
I said I think my ex has a katana.
Yeah, I actually got that one in an estate sale for $2,000. I'll tell everybody the story about the sword, and then we'll go. It was a lot of 18 weapons, and I bought it because it had two 1762 Spanish cutlasses in it, and I wanted those. And so I took the cutlasses out. The other shit I didn't give a shit about, and I was going to throw them away. And I got to the bottom, and there was a towel that was wrapped up. And I unwrapped the towel, and the tashi for that blade, so the blade without the hilt or the scabbard, was there, and it was really long, and it was paper thin. I mean, if you hold that sword up and tap it with your fingers, it twinges. And so I didn't, at the time, I had no understanding for Japanese kanji. And so it had a bunch of Japanese kanji on it, so I sent it to a friend of mine. And my friend called me up like 5 days later. He was like, yeah, you need to hide this. And then when you're ready to leave the earth, get your kids to send it to a museum. And I said, why? And he said, it's a single Muramasa. And I'm like, okay. Well, when was it forged? And he said, my guess is 1514.
Holy cow!
Now There's a legend behind Muramasa's weapons, and I love telling it. So here's the story. Muramasa would forge his swords, and the legend around Muramasa's blades was that he infused all of his blades with bloodlust. And so after forging the blade, he would hand it to a samurai. Samurai would walk out into the Muramasa Kabuka Bidotsu, draw the blade, draw it across 10 slaves' heads, and however many heads came off determined the efficacy of the blade. So the kanji on my blade is Sengo's initials and the number 7.
Wow.
Yeah. Google this shit. Google So they all have bloodlust. So they're cursed. So the cursed Muramasa blades, when drawn, require the wielder to draw blood before it can be put back.
Man, that's to
be fair, I have a family claymore downstairs that weighs 147 pounds, and you can't pick up with one hand. If you can pick it up with one hand, you'll earn my eternal respect. And I have a bastard hand and a half downstairs that you can pick up with one hand, but it weighs about 86 pounds. And so you have to be 6'6" and be as tall and as girthy as I am to carry the fucking thing. But anyway, so look, there's a lot of cool shit about me. There's way more cooler shit about me than just the amount of steel and ironware I have. Laying around the house. So, but yeah, you don't want to get into look, if you're in the pub and you're drinking and somebody starts fucking around with you, guess what? Just find me. I'll take care of it.
It's like I'm out in the car, just waiting for the body to fly through the window.
Yeah, right. just find me. I'll take care of it.
That's awesome. I love it.
So anyway, cool. Yeah, there's your funny story. I love telling funny stories about myself. But so before we're going to close, but I have both of you on here, so I'm going to talk about this. So for the rest of the readers. So here's the deal. Starting tomorrow at 10 o'clock, I'm going to unveil a new paid service to the publication. And so you guys are paid subs. And so I want you both to comment on what I have done. So Elaine, have you read any of the morning meditations?
Not really.
Okay. So here's the deal. Following the morning meditation, I am now going to provide a meditational therapy session. So all I ask, one time, read tomorrow's meditational therapy session.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tell me whether it's bullshit or not.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do.
I know.
I've been in therapy enough to tell you whether it's bullshit or not.
Yeah, I know Wendy Parker. Hey, Rick, can I let you go so I can ask Wendy?
Yep. No problem, man. It's awesome. Yeah.
Always a delight, Rick. Okay, so here we go. So we're going to get Wendy Parker in here. We're going to ask Wendy Parker. Oh. You can't leave, Elaine. You're my bitch. Okay. So. Yeah, you're my bitch. Can't go. You can't go until I say it's okay for you to go. Come on, Wendy Parker. There we go. All right. So.
Hi, loves.
Okay.
Hello.
So you have to tell me, Wendy Parker, what you think about it, because you're a paid sub. You'll get this too. So now, from now until the end of the month, the morning meditation will be followed by a morning therapy session, which provides Druid-influenced, but it's paid for. So if you're not a paid sub, you're going to get like the first 2 paragraphs. And then you have to be a paid sub to get the remainder. But it's a very nature-focused therapeutic session that I have written of my own volition. So, Wendy Parker, I know you will read it, so I want you to read tomorrow. It happens tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So, but you have to tell me if it works.
Okay, I will. I get my brain looked at again tomorrow. What's left of it at 9:45, but I will read.
No, if that goes later in the afternoon, great. I want an opinion about it because oh gosh, and Julia Fogg, I definitely Julia, just be ready. I'm about to send you a DM because I'm going to ask you, Julia Fogg, a question. I want you to consider it or whatever. Anyway, because Julia Fogg is a paid subscriber, so she could give an opinion too. So that's the big thing, is that yes, I'm unveiling a new paid for service to the publication tomorrow, and so you guys are paid subs, and I want you to read the new paid for item and tell me if it has value. I think it has value. My sister and I talked about
Well,
it.
I think that the morning meditation has value to me, even though I'm not a meditator, but I can envision what you are. Is it meditationist or meditator? That's gonna bother me. Anyway, I do read, and I love the Gaelic. I love the language. I love that. It is beautiful and interesting. Um, just that part of it calms me because there is a deeper meaning. I wake up in the morning and generally there's 400 emergencies, and something fucked up has happened, and God only knows what the Cheeto has done overnight. Fuck, we could be part of Russia tomorrow. When I have no fucking idea. So I'm really anxious when I wake up in the morning, and that has been my grounding spot. I know that that's going to come. I wait for it, and then I think, okay, I'm going to read through this, and I'm going to get what I get from it, even though I'm not in the spot or whatever, and do the things. But I do receive a great amount of peace from it. So I'm very thankful, and I will absolutely give you the input.
Well, yeah, I think you'll be pleased with it because um, it is, while Druid influenced and nature influenced, it's really just more of a procedural thing more than a linguistic thing. So that's why I asked. But like I said, my sister and I, we talked about it or whatever, and my sister was like, "Yeah, you should do this." And by the way, you have all of this already, so why would you not? And I said, I don't know. I really wasn't sure if anyone would find value in it or not. And so, but she's like, yeah. And so then I let Miranda read it. And Miranda was like, oh, yeah, maybe you should do this. I said, okay, well,
Right.
yeah, I thought, okay. Um, yeah, I think that's a brilliant idea or whatever. All right, well, great. So, yeah, so tomorrow at some point, just read over it and then later
Absolutely.
tell me what you think.
Okay.
All
All
right, well,
right.
ladies, I'm going to let you both go because yeah, we're gonna come down now. Wendy Parker, you're Elaine's my favorite, but Wendy Parker's still my favorite too. Okay, Elaine,
Yeah.
get the fuck out.
All right, I'm going. I'm going.
No, get the fuck out. um, thank you all for a lovely session this evening. Thank you for the communal social interaction. I enjoy that as much as I enjoy reporting to the news with all of you. And no, Craig, don't fucking bring up the Waltons. That's bullshit. I don't like that. Don't do that. Fucking Waltons. um. So yeah, I'm going to bid you all good night. If you're in a safe place, stay in your safe place and do what you can. If you're not in a safe space, reach out to us and we can help you get into a safe space. We can do a lot of things, but I can't do this without you guys. I would like to think you guys can't do this without me, but I don't always necessarily feel worthy of that. I have a worth problem with everyone. Um, so I don't ever feel worthy. Um, I'm just I'm gonna modestly say that randomly, but regardless, stay strong. We all have to stick together. That's the way we get through this. We get through this together by staying together. If you're a paid subscriber, thank you for being a paid subscriber. If you're a free subscriber, keep sharing my shit with other people and getting the word out. The more people that read it, the more informed they are, the better off everyone is. And I am personally thankful for every one of you. There's no question about that. And so I love you all, and please just try to hang in.